What's up, everybody? Well, I got another Asus G15 Advantage gameplay video for you guys today, and today we're going to try out The Last of Us Part 1. We're going to do 1080p and 1440p, and today we'll start off with 1080p. So, it did not run very good on the Steam Deck, but it's not verified, it just came out. Hopefully there'll be some updates, and it can get verified, and at least be a 30-ish FPS game on low-medium settings with maybe a little FSR. I had to turn everything down to low, and have FSR on performance, just to get the game to like run without crashing after 3 or 4 minutes. So it at least was able to play and not crash now, but it sure did not look very good and still did not get very good FPS. So I'm really hoping the Asus G15 can do a better job, but since this game was made by the people that made that Arkham Knight game, I am not really getting my hopes up too high. Not ready to call it a bad port yet. Just because the Steam Deck can't play something does not mean it's a bad port. Steam Deck's not that powerful in the grand scheme of things, so we're not going to sit there and call that yet, but this laptop is a pretty decent computer. I would say it's definitely still on the very low end of the high-end laptops, and it's still probably equivalent to a mid-range PC still. So if this can't play it with decent settings, not talking about maxing it out on Ultra, I'm not expecting it to do that. That's probably going to be like a 30-40 FPS experience would be my guess at 1080p. We'll have to wait till we get in there, but that's just what I'm guessing. But hey, why should we wait any more time or waste any more time? Why don't we get this guy hooked up to the capture computer, go find out for ourselves. And at least this one's got 12 gigs of VRAM, so I should be able to go through all the settings like I usually do, from Ultra all the way down to low or whatever. And then we'll do some FSR too. There's no ray tracing in this game, so that'll save me some effort. And besides the fact this thing sucks at ray tracing anyway, I still like showing it off, but hey, saves me some time if it's not there this time. So let's get it hooked up to the capture computer and get into the game.
Well, alright, just like on the Steam Deck, you gotta let these shaders build. Otherwise, you're gonna have a really, really bad time. We still are probably gonna have a bad time from what I've been hearing about this port. I think this is one of those ports where you need like a top-of-the-line computer just to get playable frame rates with decent settings. We'll see how we do, though, with the Asus. Hopefully I can work my magic and at least get us close to 60 FPS at the end, but I can't make any promises. But anyway, again, make sure it lets the shaders build, and in any case, now let's go look at some settings. So first, we're going to try 1080p here, so we're on the correct GPU. Now, we only have borderless windowed. We don't have any other option. There is no full screen. We can just go Windows or borderless. We got no VSync. We'll come back and do FSR at the end. I turned off all these effects because I personally don't like them, and I don't think they affect performance very much, so I just like to turn them off when I remember to for these videos, but I always turn them off when I'm playing games by myself. In any case, though, we're just going to do the preset Ultra, which I think does turn some of that stuff back on, but it is what it is. We're doing the presets. As you'll see at the end, I will probably turn that off. Well, I will definitely turn that off. There is no probably about it. But we'll just scroll down. This is a good menu system. I'll give them that. I like when they give me options, lots of options, and then give me an example on the side of what it does and its effect on the RAM, CPU, and all that. That's good. Good job. Anyway, though, let's hop into the game and see how it plays. Well, all right, here's where I left off around on the Steam Deck when I was done with the camera recorded part. So let's just walk around. As you can plainly see, we are not getting 60 FPS on Ultra. And it pretty much maxes our memory out. We don't really have very much more to spare. But we are getting 100% GPU utilization, so there's that. We'll run around a little bit here. I'll bash my face into some bricks there. Well, we may not be getting a lot of FPS, but I will say the game definitely looks pretty good considering this is only 1080p. But this is Ultra at the same time. So, in my opinion, not playable, but a lot of people would just want 30 FPS, and this would be completely playable for them so far, though it may drop under later. Now we will tone things down to high at 1080p. So as you can see, the RAM definitely went down a little bit, or the VRAM rather. We were really close to our 12.2 or 12 and 1242. Or wait, no, 12,242. Jeez, I can freaking talk right. We were pretty close to that before. Now we're only at 9,114. Again, very nice list of options and all that too. But Now, let's go see how high does. Well, alright guys. Let's get a little bit of some high gameplay in now. Just see, we're a lot closer to 60 all the time now. Although it still says we're using 11 gigs of VRAM, so... Then again, that could just be allocated. But yeah, pretty close to playable FPS here. Hopefully I can get around this kind of FPS with my settings. And if not, hell, just do high, you know? Because by the time I get to my settings, I'm not going to remember what high got, you know? I'm just going to fiddle with the settings. Ah, we dropped all the way down to 49 right there, though. Definitely got some stutters. All right, though, let's move on. Well, now we're going to tone it down to medium, so let's look through the medium settings. We went down to 8.8 gigs of VRAM now, from I believe the 9.1 that it was at before. Now I'm extra glad they used a 6700 XT core on this GPU. We got lots of VRAM. Well, not VRAM, and it's not lots by today's standards, but it's enough to get by at least a 1080p and hopefully 1440p. We'll have to wait and see. Let's get into the game now. So now here's medium. We dropped from a little bit of RAM. We got lost like 200 megs. We were at 11.6, but again, this could just be allocated VRAM. It's not necessarily using 11.4. But at least we're getting over 60 FPS for now. But I've noticed that this thing does random shit. Like after a little while, you'll be playing and you'll be getting FPS like this, then all of a sudden it'll just drop down to like 60 and right around 57 to 61. Like no matter what I would do. You'll see that back when I get to my settings. It'll be FPS like this, and then since I do a little bit of extra gameplay there, like a couple minutes more usually, at least on camera, I think that's where we see it. It starts doing that shit. And I'm like, well, what the hell is up with that? You were getting good FPS before. What the hell are you doing? Anyway, though, why don't we now go ahead and tone the settings down again. Now we're going to do low, which dropped our VRAM usage down to 7.3 gigs out of our total 12.242. So we'll just go through here real fast and then get back into the game and see how low does. Low honestly might be a bit too much, or too low, and we might start getting into Bottleneck City. We'll see. Because this is CPU intensive, and if we turn all this stuff down to low, we're going to make it even more CPU intensive, you know what I mean? Anyway, though, let's go find out now. All right, here we go. And as you can see, we're actually getting a little bit less FPS now. See? It's doing that shit I was talking about.
You got your ways.
And I think that's because now we're only getting like 40%, 50% utilization on the GPU because we've turned the settings down so much. CPU's boosting a little more on the megahertz department now, and more is being used in the percentile, so you can totally see what I mean. So this is a perfect example of a CPU bottleneck. We are now preventing our GPU from running at maximum speed because the graphics are just too low. And that's always harder on the CPU. That's why you see all these other YouTubers testing CPUs at 720p and 1080p. So, honest to God, this might just do a lot better with the people with the 1440p version, because I mean, this is not a game where you really need 1080p 300 hertz in. That's for sure. I'd probably rather have the 1440p version for something like this. Especially since it seems like 1080p is too low of a resolution for this thing for this type of game. Unless you're going to run with my settings at the end, which seem to get us around 70-ish something FPS, I believe. At least until you run for a while, and then it starts acting like this again. So it's like, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to some FSR now. Well, now we're going to do some FSR, so I figured we'd look at all the settings, and I'll show you. That's why it's 720p now. That's FSR 2 quality at 1080p anyway. So, like, again, we're doing FSR 2, and it's quality. And I left all that other stuff there the same, but I turned the preset back to high. I figured that's a lot of the times when people want to use it. They're like, hey, I'm not quite getting 60, and I'd like to, so let's see if it does. If we really are in the CPU, getting a CPU bottleneck, this won't really affect it much. We might get like a 5-10 FPS jump compared to our usual like 15, 16 FPS jump in a lot of other games. But anyway, why don't we hop in and find out for ourselves once we get to the bottom here, and there we go. Let's get into the game. So, here is the game on high with FSR on quality. It's just standard field of view too. I didn't mess with that in this game. Nice reflections. So you still get good looking reflections on high. That's why I didn't go with Ultra. I figured Ultra was just too much. We were only in like the 40s before. We'd probably barely get 60 right now. And that's only with the help of FSR, which, as you've seen, turns it down to 720p, and then it upscales it to 1080p. Do a little moonwalking. Hell yeah. This guy knows what's up.
Where's the ladder?
It's got to be around here somewhere.
Gotta find the ladder. Where's the ladder? I don't know. But we'll find the ladder one day. Maybe. But for now, I just gotta keep running around and getting us, like, FPS data. Now we're back down to, like, 60 to 58 there again. Yeah, when we go back here and go around there, that's where it drops to. No matter what you do around here. And that's what I figured. I figured if it can't even do this area, then I'm sure there's more hard-to-run places than this, so. I want it to at least get, like, 70 FPS here and maybe high 60s. Anyway, well, now we're going to do FSR Balanced, which is ironically what we had to use on the Steam Deck just to get it to run at all. And that's 1136 by 640. So this is 640p now already. And we're still on high. So I have a feeling this is where we're going to like super get into a CPU bottleneck. If we were in our bottleneck before at 720p, we're certainly going to be CPU bottlenecked at 360p. But we're going to do it anyway. Got to be thorough. As long as it's going to start crashing on me, that is. If it's going to crash, there's nothing I can do about that. But I'll at least let you know. But anyway, to the game. Well, here we go. FSR Balanced. And considering this is upscaled from 360p, it does not look that bad. It definitely doesn't look as good as it did before. But to me, FSR usually adds in quite a bit of nonsense. So I tend to not use it. Same thing with DLSS. They both have their issues, and I'm sure the Intel one does too. I don't have any Intel GPUs to test out. Hell, maybe I'll do that. Go get a laptop also with that. Get one that's Intel and NVIDIA, one that's all AMD like this, and then go get one that's Intel. Just for fun. Just so we can really compare laptops. I'll just start turning myself into a super tech channel once I move into my next house. Oh, I fell in the water. Uh-oh. Okay, I can get out. That would be pretty funny. Like, oh, nope, you fell in a hole. That's the end of the game. You lose. You're done. No more game for you. But yeah, we're still stuck around that 58 to 60 FPS part right here, so. I was not expecting lowering the resolution anymore was going to help us get any more FPS here. I have a feeling we're going to get the same FPS we're getting right now, or possibly even get worse the lower we go. But, hey, why don't we now go ahead and go turn the FSR down again? Well, all right, we're down to 960 by 544 for resolution. That's what FSR 2 performance equals, at least when your base is 1080p. So let's just go look over the settings. I'm still leaving them exactly the way they were, but just want to show you guys there's no funny business, and this also makes my life so much easier when I go to make descriptions once I'm done uploading the video to YouTube. Otherwise, I'm just sitting there like watching it like a hawk, unable to do anything else entertaining while I type. Usually I like to listen to some like YouTube in the background and just pay attention to the editing. Anyway, let's get into the game. Now we got FSR on Performance. So we'll run around the same, and right here in the same spot, we're getting about the same 59 to 60 FPS we have been on high. I'm quite curious to see if Ultra Performance makes us get even lower FPS. Or more of the same, because it seems like no matter what we do with FSR, we're getting about the same FPS, which tells me we're, at least, unless I'm completely wrong, that tells me we're CPU bottlenecked as hell. Because we're only getting 50 to 40% utilization, sometimes almost 60. But, oh, we went to 61 there for a second. But yeah, this is not utilizing the GPU enough, since it's such low resolution. Which means I'm going to try to avoid the use of FSR in this game, and DLSS. Hopefully I can, well, hopefully the other two computers just play the game maxed out and not even worry about it, but this one is definitely going to have to be tinkered with, for sure, just like the Steam Deck was. The Steam Deck was not pretty, I can tell you that. That looked like ass, at least blown up. It wasn't so bad, just looking at the screen and using it as a handheld, but you blow that stuff up and it looks really fucking bad. Anyway, though, why don't we now go ahead and move on to the last FSR setting, and then after that, we'll do my settings. Well, all right, now we're going to do FSR Performance, or Ultra Performance, and that's going to be 640 by 360, so we're at 360p, hell yeah. But this is a mode for people that only care about FPS and do not give a shit about looks. Or possibly for use for 8K. But still, if you're going to run 8K, I would probably want that to be native. Or at least on quality settings, you know? Because I'm going to have an 8K TV soon, so I'm going to add 8K testing to certain things when people call for it, just for fun. And also just for fun in other games. Anyway, though, that is the bottom, so let's go see how Ultra Performance FSR does. Well, alright, here's Ultra Performance FSR, and you can definitely tell that's on. FSR tends to really fail hardcore at, like, distant objects like foliage on leaves and hair up close. Like you can just, if you stare right at the back of his head as we're walking around stuff, you can see the aliasing around his body. It's almost like he has an aura. And NVIDIA DLSS has an even different issue. It won't necessarily do that, but you'll get lots of ghosting. And that's not necessarily the worst thing in a slower paced game like this, but you go try to play like a racing game or something like that, or a first-person shooter, and you're going to have lots of ghosting, and that's no fun. There's our little puddle. Still looks very reflective, even though we're at, 360p in the grand scheme of things, but we're still getting the same 58 to 60 FPS in this area. No matter what we do with the FSR, that is our pretty much destined FPS, it seems, for now. At least when we're using FSR. That's why I'm going to try not using it once we get to my settings, which won't be in too long now. I'm just going to run around this pool area one more time here. Climb up this bitch. And then I think right here, we'll call it. And let's go and move on to my settings now. Well, last up before I hop into camera gameplay, let's look at my settings real quick, which will also be my settings for camera gameplay. But these are the settings that I found to work the best to make it get halfway decent FPS. And yet still look halfway decent too. Without the use of any FSR, mind you. That's why I didn't bother showing you guys that screen. There's no FSR going on. This is native. That's why it says 1920 by 1080 up there. That right there would give you away if you were trying to cheat, because it would tell you what its rendered resolution is. Anyway, to the game. Well, here we go with my settings. And cool, we're getting around the 70 to almost 80 FPS sometimes. That's exactly what I was kind of hoping for. Now, of course, there could be areas where we still drop under 60. But so far, run around here for like a minute or so and nothing happened. But once I started the camera portion, we started seeing it dropping back down to about the same as it was before, down to that 60 to 50. And I don't really know what's up with that, or why it does that. Because as soon as we're done with this, I have to completely exit out of the game, otherwise it'll just freeze, and then you have to restart the whole laptop usually. And it doesn't do that when I'm just unplugging the monitor from it. So it's got to be something capture card related. I don't know what the hell is up with that, but it's kind of annoying. So I just have to remember, always quit out a game first, then unplug the laptop from the capture computer. Then it won't have any issues at all. At least so far.
Hey, try it over there.
Nope, I'm busy running around a pool. No ladder for you. Come back in 2 years. Yeah, we're supposed to go up there. Well, too bad. We're collecting data here. All right, still 67, 68. We're getting close to that 60 mark, but we're going under it, but still not yet. You'll have to wait until we get to my camera gameplay to see that, which, why don't we get started on that right now? Well, all right, guys. Let's just get a teeny tiny bit of camera gameplay. I kind of want to stay in the same spot. I know I usually get like 5, 6, 7 minutes of this stuff after, but we're just going to get about the same as we did for all the rest of the settings, so we can stay in the same spot, because I want to test this spot on all the different PCs, because I think this thing needs some updates. If I'm having to try this hard, it took me like quite a while to figure out some settings that actually ran above 60 while still looking good without having to resort to FSR. I have a feeling at 1440p I'm going to have to resort to FSR no matter what. But we'll see. But at least the game looks good. We're staying above 60, at least in this particular area. There could, of course, be places where later on in the game it drops down a little bit, but I don't think it should by much. Honestly, I think the most intensive place I've been so far was on my Steam Deck, running away from the zombies in the beginning of the game, where the whole town is panicking. Nope, sorry guys, I don't need a hint. Nope, see, it still drops down to 58 here and whatnot, even where I am. So, like I said, no matter what you're, or not like I said, but what I was wondering is how long it'll stay above. We were in the higher FPS before, and then all of a sudden it always just tanks. It did the same thing on my Steam Deck in this area. Like I went back to the main menu, you know, messed with the settings a little bit, came back, it was running pretty good, and I was like, alright, cool, I should start recording the video, and like as soon as I was about to hit record, it dropped. And I was like, oh, okay, well then never mind. I'll just have to see if my laptop does it too, and it does. So yeah, getting a 60 FPS experience on this thing is, right now, seems to be pretty much impossible in the game's current state. So, at least with this kind of hardware. So, we're going to go and wrap this video on up now. And I dread to think what Ultra or 1440p is going to be like, although since it's such a CPU heavy game, that actually might help us out. We'll have to wait and see. But let's go wrap the video on up, shall we?
Well, alright guys, that's a wrap for The Last of Us Part 1 at 1080p on the Asus G15 Advantage anyway. And no matter what, after a little while, it seems to just drop down to 50 FPS no matter what you do. I noticed that when I was messing around with the settings. Like, before I would start, I would kind of just run around a little bit just to see what the settings would do. And it seemed like every time I'd go to hit record, it would be at the same fucking settings, and I was starting to wonder what the hell was going on, you know? But there's gotta be some bug or something. It's not getting any hotter than with any other game, so it's not like super throttling or anything like that. So, I don't know. This game's being weird, but it just needs some updates, I think. Well, I wasn't expecting very much out of this game after I heard who did the port. I was like, okay, nope, this is probably going to be absolutely abominable, and it pretty much is. This laptop should be absolutely more than capable of playing that with those settings and staying at the 70-ish FPS it was getting at the start of the video, or the start of my settings before I switched and went to my camera. But then the camera was the same, but you saw it live. I went for a little bit longer, down to like 2 minutes, and it went down and did the same thing. I thought, oh, maybe now it'll finally do it. Maybe it was just the capture card for some reason doing it, but no. But anyway, it's time for us to wrap this video on up so we can get started on the 1440p, which I shudder to think how that's going to run. I'm probably going to need FSR on that one, but maybe I won't. We'll see. Maybe the CPU bottleneck is so bad that'll actually help. Anyhow, that's all I got for you guys for this video. I sure hope you guys enjoyed watching the video, because I sure as hell enjoyed making it for you guys. And until the next video, peace out, guys.